Hey YouTube, good day. Today we're going to talk about YouTube's probably least talked about silver, generic silver rounds. Stay tuned. So yeah, YouTube, today generic silver, an oft undiscussed item, except when usually in derision and just downplaying it. But really, I think I want to highlight here is what you're seeing right before you with generic silver is the variety is what makes it great. Um, you can get many different types and looks of rounds, and also when you think back to it, in the old days before the American Eagle, there was no there was no coin of the country unless you got constitutional 90% silver, or you got slabbed old coins. That was coin collecting. There wasn't a lot of silver stacking, except you went to things like this that were out there on the market that people were putting out. I guess you'd call it the dark days potentially, but now we get the benefit from all that, I guess, ingenuity that was developed out of necessity of making it interesting to own silver. And this is what they were working with when especially after the 80 dump, the Hunt brothers, not the Hunt brothers, who were the guys that tried to corner the silver market? Those guys. After that was over and they got rid of all the strategic national stockpile of silver in that big scam, and basically the banks courted the silver market instead of them. 1981. That's what they were working with, and since then people have started they just developed more and more silver rounds with designs to make it interesting and really to fit what people were looking for in their silver. And I look at it and I always, I go to the coin shop, or when I put an order in, I usually throw in a generic round off the site, or at the coin shop they got a bin of them there, and just pick up a couple to round off the order, or to even it out, or whatever. Just find something that looks good. I almost always, if I see these, I'll almost always get one of these. They have these at the local coin shop a lot. And I just see these as historically relevant. Because again, it's got the made from the strategic stockpile of silver that we used to have, that we, for some reason, got rid of just as soon as silver actually became relevant as a industrial metal. At the time, it was just the U.S. had stopped making money out of silver, and they were probably like, well, what do we use it with? Well, it was starting to come into play in computers and other devices, but the U.S. decided they'd get rid of it. They got rid of our strategic stockpile. That kind of commemorates that. I really like those. I've got one of, it's in another, I didn't bring it out, I don't think. But here's a good one, 1776 round that they made here locally. 200-year anniversary, 1776. And they actually made this here locally in Nevada. That was pretty cool. And these are all the types of generic rounds that you can find out there. Of course, the Buffalo has been really popular. My focus keeps going in and out on me, messing me up. Golden State Mint has made a mint off of just the Indian head and the buffalo alone, I think. Whoa. But really, I think that's the great thing about the generic, is you can find something that you like. It can be just something as plain as a branded round, or somebody trying to be creative with the Monarch buck You had the Engelhard Prospector rounds, which are not really considered generic anymore. They're almost at collector status with the old Prospector rounds from Engelhard, but they've brought them back through Provident. And you saw these when I unboxed these with when I got their deal with the Prospector round and the Prospector. But the generic silver game has gotten a lot stronger with the designs they offer and the quality, I guess you'd say craftsmanship of it all. I just recently got one of these Incuse rounds, they call it, where it's actually engraved into the coin from Golden State Mint. And I would say that was very impressive. I like this design. It's the first one I had gotten like that. But still, they're using that Indian head as their moneymaker from Golden State. But I really like, especially the old ones. They really played heavily on old coin designs, old U.S. designs. It was made in '85. It's like they were throwing everything back to the original U.S. coins, which had been stopped being made. And that's what they were relying on that old design to kind of reel people back in, I think. Some cool designs. But, and that's what's great about generic, is you can pick your favorite and you can get it at a really cheap deal. They just offer them at just pennies over spot, really, is what's great about them. You can find, like we talked about when we got our deal on these, they were at spot prices. So a lot of mints offer their personal round at spot, which is great. Easy way to stack silver. And you can also find something you like, something historically relevant or otherwise. This is the Liberty Walker that Golden State makes as well. Again, throwing back to the old design. Lots of good stuff. But nobody ever talks about the generic rounds and all the different designs and stuff out there. They're just not quite, you don't treat them as, obviously, as a high quality coin, but there's a lot of cool stuff that goes around. You check out some of the, if you can see the toning on that one. This one has, it's one of the S strategic stockpile rounds. But there's so much more history in a lot of these than, if you try to get an American Eagle from essentially the same year as this 85 round, you try to get a 86 Eagle, or once they started making the Eagles back then, you're paying an arm and a leg just because it came from the United States Mint. But yet these have historical relevance and are older, but you're getting them at spot and just a little bit over when I go to the coin store. It's like, what gives, right? I don't get it. But just some thoughts and sharing off some of the generic rounds. I've got a roll I've been trying to collect of the ones I get from the coin shop, and I got one more coin to go, and that'll be full to top off my generic round. Well, at least the first full roll of variety, where all these ones I get from the coin store fit in. And once I fill that up, and then I'll move on to another one. But just thought I'd share, YouTube, something to think about. If you're not stacking American Eagles or something, you can always go with the generic rounds, which are a good thing to look at just as much as anything else. All right. We'll talk to you later, YouTube. Live free.